You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's been a week. That's a long time for us to go between shows, so we've got a lot to catch up on. Sri Lanka, they're the champions of Asia. King Crawley, he's back, and England have wrapped up a convincing, in the end, series win over South Africa in the tests. I'm Jack Hope, and I'm going to be talking about all of this cricket with Max Rowe-Brown, who has an interesting-looking carpet on the wall behind him.
Just a bit of wall art. Nice throw. I thought I'd cover up some of the, cracked in vibes with some.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
quite hippie-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I bought it at uni.
Yeah. Would you
Very
on a
opposite.
scale of 1 to 10, how hippie would you say you were?
I don't know. I mean, what? I 6, 5.
6.
There's
6,
an element
5,
of hippie-ishness in there, but I'm not at the top end.
Yeah. I find hippies, and no offense, but let's get into it early. I find hippies very annoying. Anyone who goes above a 6-ish on the hippie scale is somebody that I automatically don't like. So I'd say
lucky that I'm just about below. Yeah.
Based on that, yeah. What did you rate yourself? 5.5.
About 5. Yeah.
Yeah, we're only like
close to incompatible here.
We're only one inappropriate holiday away from you no longer being able to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
Max, so there's some messages for the listeners. First of all, we're on social media at the Cricket Pod. Second of all, we are on Patreon. Patreon.com/the Cricket Pod. Sign up there, £4 a month, $5, a few Aussie dollars, to support the show directly. We have a surprise for Patreons, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. I think we can just, it's a good thing. So sign up, and if you'd signed up, you'd already heard. We're going to tell you, but it's patreon.com/the Cricket Pod.
Well sold.
And the show is presented by everyone's favorite male grooming product, Manscaped.
Don't be a hippie. Trim your balls.
That's very unhippie behavior, isn't it? To shave your testicles.
Maybe I'm more like a 4 then.
I guess. So if you want to, following the logic of this show so far, if you want me to respect you, go to manscaped.com, get yourselves involved. The Lawnmower 4.0, or one of the performance packages. I believe the Platinum is the most recent one. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off, and impress me. Max, we're going to talk about England first.
Okay.
Would you like to summarise the 120 odd overs of high quality Test cricket that we saw?
Was it that many? Wow.
I think it was 107 going into the final day, wasn't it?
So, well, obviously there was concern that the game wasn't actually going to happen with events overtaking cricket.
The Queen died.
As
you haven't heard.
The Queen died. Yeah, that happened. So
she's not really the Queen anymore, is she?
The former
the
Queen.
ex-Queen.
Yeah, the King's mother. Anyway, Friday was rained off. It absolutely pissed down all day. Saturday was queened off. So we were left with a 3-day test match. And some people were wondering whether it would be worth bothering. But that was to forget the fact that the previous 2 test matches has only lasted 3 days. Anyway, and this one barely even managed to last 2. Because South Africa, having lost the toss on Friday, were put in to bat on Sunday, were immediately completely destroyed by Ollie Robinson and limped to 118. England then looked like they were going to take an unassailable first innings advantage and then completely collapsed themselves, which meant that there was a bit of a game on, especially as South Africa put on a pretty good opening partnership in their second innings. But as had England done, they completely collapsed, meaning England only needed 130 to win. And they almost did it on Sunday night. Almost did it on Sunday night. Bad light meant that Jack got to see 5 minutes of cricket this morning. And it was a series win for England.
Yeah, I popped that day. I mean, I always get day 5 tickets at the Oval because I live near it, and they're £20. And you usually get your money back. It was slightly farcical. Actually, we might as well talk about my experience first, because that's what it's all about, isn't it, cricket?
Yeah,
it was slightly farcical to go down there when they could very easily have finished the match the night before. They needed 30 runs. I think Crawley was on 50 or 40 balls.
Yeah.
Wasn't having too many problems. Even Alex Lees was scoring. Ben Stokes was raging on the balcony. They had Stuart Broad padded up just in case they needed the Nighthawk. By the way, have you heard that Stuart Broad has bought a T-shirt with Nighthawk written on it?
I haven't, but I
Yeah,
am
now you've
unsurprised,
heard.
and I'm quite a fan of that actually.
Apparently, after the game today, the England team were having a game of football, and he was in his Nighthawk
In his Nighthawk
T-shirt.
uniform.
Yeah,
Is that the next Marvel film?
it could be. So they came back this morning, and well, Rabada and Janssen sort of went through the motions. They to the extent, Max, they got Alex Lees out. Nitin Menon just didn't give it. I don't really know why. Back pad right in front of middle stump. And they only bothered to review it at the very last second because they sort of were obliged to. They didn't even do the thing where everyone runs in and they have the discussion. They appealed. It wasn't given. Rabada walked back to the top of his mark, and then Dean Elgar at mid off was like, "Well, I guess it would be embarrassing."
Well, it already been through one embarrassing non-review, so you can't have two in one game, can you?
Yeah. So why they couldn't have done it yesterday, I don't really know. I think probably as a spectacle though, Max, this ranks as one of the worst Test matches played in recent times. I think I might have got my maths slightly wrong. I think it might have been 150 overs all told.
Okay.
Which is, what's that? 30 overs short of 2 days cricket. I didn't see much to commend this as entertainment. Full stop. We could talk about how some of the England bowlers.
Because you're a man who loves carnage, and it was pure carnage.
I think I like batting carnage a bit more. It was carnage, but it was like, what's the point of a game? And it's the same. I think you need to be consistent in your viewpoints and your criticism.
Yeah.
Of boards when they do things like this, or of teams when they play like this. When England played in India, we rightly gave India pelters for the decks that were rolled out. Yeah. Like they were, some of the most atrocious cricket ever played. Total lottery. I mean, there was that amazing Hawkeye thing, wasn't there, with Ashwin bowling an over and one went past Root's head, one went along the floor. Like it was, and this is Ashwin bowling spin. This is basically as bad in my book. I think it was pretty obvious that some doctoring of this wicket had happened. And I wasn't particularly entertained by Anderson, Broad and Robinson bowling 85-mile-an-hour deliveries that moved off the pitch like Shane Warne had delivered them. Like, that's not... Look, it is good bowling, isn't it? Like, this isn't an attack on Robinson, Anderson and Broad, because they did exploit the conditions to the maximum amount. You can only play on the surface that you are given. But holy shit, they were given a good surface. I mean, at the end of the first day, Stuart Broad, or any of the third day, whichever way we want to call it, at the end of that, Stuart Broad, of all people, was like, yeah, that was too easy. The pitch. The pitch was no good. And it was a series that promised a lot, I think. England, resurgent, South Africa, well up there in the World Test Championship stakes. Even after the first match, which was a bit of a blowout for the away side, it still promised like it could be an interesting. There could be some interesting narratives.
Yeah.
Then South Africa made a pretty colossal selection error and toss decision, which I think kiboshed them in the second test.
Yeah.
We come into this match. It's the denouement. It's at the Oval. Traditionally, I think one of the best grounds, maybe the best ground in the country to actually go and watch cricket live. Normally, you get a really good pitch.
Certainly, one of the best grounds in the country to go and bat.
Yeah, but it's not. It tends not to be. It tends not to be ridiculous. It's not like there's ball draws there all the time. It's the bowlers in the game. You get results.
Yeah.
But something went wrong, and I don't think that. I think it's a problem, a structural problem for cricket, Test cricket, beyond the fact that it was a really one-sided game. It's sort of okay. and everyone's patting themselves on the back and being like, yeah, what great work by England. You know, their seamers are amazing. And they're going to go to Pakistan in 3 months. No one will be able to get a wicket, and Babar Azam's going to get 7,000 runs. And we'll all be like, "Well, what's going on? What's going on?" It's because you do this.
Yeah.
But it's
No,
it's a problem from an England point of view, and it's a problem from an international cricket point of view because that was a shit Test match.
It's a completely fair point. I think people could point to the whole series. I think there's probably a distinction to be made between the first 2 tests and the third test. I think you pointed out the error South Africa made with selection in the second test. I think that was partly it, and also there was some England bowled well and South Africa batted pretty poorly in that first innings, and then in the first test England batted absolutely dreadfully. South Africa bowled brilliantly, but it wasn't again a case of the pitch doing all the work. It was Nortje was too fast, and England didn't know what to do. And yeah, this was something else entirely. This was you drop it on length, and which way's the ball going to go? I don't know, but
yeah,
stumps are flying.
No, I mean, it's batters again. I remember saying this a lot of or after that Ahmedabad test. These are guys who have paid a lot of money and have spent their whole lives training to hit a ball with a stick, and
they were unable to hit a ball with a stick.
They weren't getting anywhere near it.
No,
they didn't know what to leave. They didn't know what to play at. They didn't know what line to play down. They were in tricky conditions. Yeah, I'm not saying here I want every pitch to be a road. In tricky conditions, typically a batter will try and cover up one of the edges. They'll try and avoid
try and negate one
or
method
LBW
of dismissal,
and accept they might get caught a second slip, or vice versa. Cover off the nick, but accept that they might get pinned LBW.
Yeah.
Batters on both teams basically didn't know what was going on, and I mean, like the only batter who I thought looked comfortable at any point really, except I don't know, perhaps Crawley last night, was Pope, and Pope plays at the Oval all the time and always looks comfortable at the Oval. I think that was as much
and even then, some of it was a bit dicey, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was for sure. So I had some problems with that, and I just didn't think it was good cricket, and I thought the whole series, in fact, flattered to deceive a little bit, and I don't buy into Ben Stokes after the game. I stayed for all the presentations that he was saying we're just trying to play entertaining cricket and blah 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 blah. I don't see that was entertaining.
Well, I mean, the players are trying to play entertaining cricket, aren't they? I think sort of set aside from the state of the pitch, like the way they've gone into, but like all the tests they played this summer, there's been 2 or more, like an extra slip or 2 than what we've had in the past in the cordon, and they've kept it for longer. Now, you could argue that is actually just a symptom of the pitches being a little livelier than they should be.
No,
but I think that's a concerted plan. Like they're being more aggressive and trying to take wickets. They're still pushing it.
But I think within this plan, effectively what has happened is that they were upset that the ball didn't fucking go around corners earlier in the season, and Daryl Mitchell got some runs. So they've, I mean, there is a difference between the ball they were using earlier in the summer and the one they used in the last 3 matches.
Yeah,
and they definitely said speed this game up with this oval pitch. Now I know some weird stuff happened with the Queen keeling over, and it rained a lot, and so maybe they went for a slightly juicy pitch. And then
got a bit overly juicy.
Yeah. Look, stuff can happen. It's a bit like probably the Ahmedabad pitch. Probably India actually didn't want that to happen, but then you throw the pink ball on top of it, and it was a complete dumpster fire. Maybe to be fair to the Oval groundsman here, they were aiming for a pitch that would wrap it up in 3.5 days. One day was rained off, made the ground super soft. The next day they didn't play, so the pitch is, nobody really knows what to expect from it. And then by the time they get round to playing in helpful conditions for bowling, it is a complete nightmare to bat on. But I think there will have been some team orders there at some point, and I think that's bigger picture here. I just think that's a big problem. I don't think Test cricket can survive.
Well, it's not just a Test cricket problem, is it? Like we discussed
No,
it was
but
Bangladesh's T20 side and the pitches.
yeah,
they put
sure,
out.
but at least in a T20, I mean, like I remember one of them, Dan Christian hit 5 sixes or 5 balls and managed to win a game. For at least you get like random acts, which can bring the slightly disadvantaged side or the more disadvantaged side into the match. Like, you know, there's some there are some pretty heinous pitches prepared for T20 cricket, and there's some almost farcical decks prepared in franchise cricket to give a team home advantage as well. But I think this sort of stuff really just takes the cake. You know, if we want to talk about it, the actual talking points that I think a lot of other people will be focusing on will be how amazing Robinson was and how amazing Anderson was and how amazing Broad were. And we'll get to that and we'll dole out some praise because there are some good stories there too, for sure. And the other thing will be the way England batted, like, you know, they double parked the team bus and someone had just told them there was a traffic warden in the vicinity. Like the way they batted like that, I think people will focus on that and say it was some kind of tactical misjudgment and that, oh, Stokes, he was so good last week at Old Trafford. But the fact is that those players knew for sure that they weren't going to be able to hang around on that pitch.
There's a ball with your name on it, so
they knew that if they could get very similar again to this Ahmedabad match, very similar. If you can get 50 runs ahead, you've won the match, and that's exactly what happened. 36 doesn't seem like a big lead. It hasn't been a big lead really all summer until this match. But 36 was, you know, it might have been it might as well have been 136 to be honest. It was a huge advantage because in the second innings, England were going to be able to do exactly the same thing and wrap it up. So I'd completely exonerate Stokes on the stupid batting decision point. I think it was probably the right way to play. But I don't want to see pitches ever where that becomes the right way to play.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree with you. So there's not a huge amount of debate to be had on this point. I just think, you're right. Here's a concern. Guess we could ask, you know, what do you do to discourage this sort of thing? I mean, and with ICC tournaments, you have an ICC pitch curator overseas, like some of the grounds.
Well, I fucked it up at the 2019 World Cup, didn't they?
Well, they did, yeah. So you can't really trust them. They'll just do whatever suits India, Australia, or England if they're at home. So that's a load of rubbish. But I mean, you know, it's the World Test Championship. It's an ICC event. Like, should we maybe have some kind of neutral oversight of pitches or something, or is it just do we have to go to the county championship method and start offering the away side a choice of toss rather than having the toss? Is it that extreme?
I wouldn't do that. And Rabada said that it was basically win toss win match for this series, and I probably wouldn't agree with that either. I think that England worked out after the first test, or actually after they worked out for this test, that their batting was going to be a little bit stronger than South Africa's because half of South Africa's players went home and, you know, got injured and stuff, and they weren't very good in the first place. So if you're going from Aidan Markram to somebody worse than Aidan Markram, like that's trouble. And same for Van der Dussen. I think England just worked out that with Robinson back in, they had equally as good, you know, options with the ball. In those conditions, caveat with that, in those conditions, and their batting was worth quite a lot more runs, and they'd win 9 out of 10 matches on a complete seamer. So that's what they rolled out. That's my take on it. And if that's not true, and I'm being really unfair to England, and, you know, whatever, fine. I'll take that criticism. I'm sorry if you came here for a big old pat on the back. Yeah. But no smoke without fire is what I would say. No smoke without fire. It didn't look right.
It wasn't an even contest between bat and ball. No.
Mind you, it was a 3-day test, and you might not have got a result if it had been a good pitch. But is that necessary?
I think that's circumstance and coincidence rather than anything else. But there you go.
It was, just on good points. Robinson was excellent, and I think, but what were his match figures? 7 for 85 or something like that.
7 for 89.
Yeah. He was terrific. Again, there's a big conditions situation here, but he bowled literally as well as you could bowl. I think.
Yeah.
On any pitch, he'd have been a handful with bounce. He'd have got lateral movement from somewhere, and he's tall, and he just hammered that line and length.
Yeah.
The first innings especially.
I mean, obviously his fitness. I mean, people are talking about it to death, but obviously his fitness must have improved a bit because he came back a few times and kept that up, kept the consistency up. So that's a good sign. It'll be a completely different ball game when he has to do it in the heat of Lahore or Karachi or whatever. But
I think it'll be. I've got genuine confidence in Ollie Robinson as a bowler that could be useful away from home.
Yeah,
he'll always be better on that pitch or at Lords than he will in Brisbane. But it is very difficult to bat against a guy who can bowl the wobble ball, who bowls every single ball at the top of off stump. Like it just is very difficult to do that wherever you are.
Yeah.
So good signs.
He's an asset.
Yeah.
First name on the team sheet with the ball.
I would. My view is that he is England's best bowler. There are times when Anderson will bowl better than him, and I think Anderson's ability to swing the ball is something that Robinson. So he sort of can in-swing it, can't he, Robinson? But I don't think it's
not his main weapon.
Yeah, but I think, I think, yeah, in most conditions, I'm having Robinson first. Anderson, I mean, there's I think at the beginning of the summer, quite a lot of people thought that probably Anderson and Broad were going to be done, but that seems highly unlikely now, doesn't it, Max? They'll be back next year for the Ashes.
Yeah, well, especially if we roll out pitches like that. You have to remain impressed, don't you? The number of times people get towards writing them off, and then they come back and go, "Oh no, they're still really good." Obviously, they're perhaps benefiting slightly from the fact there aren't many other people around at the moment that would do better. Like they're all unfit. Like Chris Wokes is coming back into fitness, so he would be the kind of guy that would come into contention at home for sure, especially with given what you can do with the bat. But at the moment there isn't anyone who would replace Anderson or Broad in the roles that they perform with the ball, as far as I'm concerned. So another year for sure. 41-year-old James Anderson continues.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, I mean, because this will raise a question. If he plays, there's 6 home tests next year. Let's assume he plays 5 of them. He'll probably want to turn his arm over against Ireland, won't he? Let's say he gets another 30 wickets, 40 wickets by then. Will he carry on to try and get Murali and Warne?
He's got to.
He's got to.
I mean, he's got to try. I mean, he will, obviously it'll be up to him when he quits. No one's going to tell him to quit. If he's still effective and feels like he can chase them down, then he probably will. Whether it'll be a case of he has a couple of tests to do it, and maybe we invite some whipping boys over to massage the figures is another matter.
Give test status to Holland.
Yeah, well, everyone's saying that it's a real shame that teams like Zimbabwe are sort of resurgent. They beat Australia the other day in an ODI, but there's no sign of any of the big boys being willing to play them because it's not in their interest, despite the fact it might be good for their cricket. So maybe we can find some sort of compromise. Yeah. We'll help develop Zimbabwe and we'll get Jimmy Anderson over the line.
It'll count. Right, so final point, then we've got a question, and then we'll move on to Asia Cup stuff after a break.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Crawley, 69, not out.
Yeah.
Is he back in the not back in the team?
Oh yeah, no, that's another year. That's another year. Another year of Zach Crawley. We were making this. I was on Guerrilla Cricket on Sunday doing the commentary, and in the room on air and on Twitter, the joke was Zach Crawley's going to get 68 not out, and he'll be in the team for a year. It was almost spot on. It was one run out from being exactly right. And yeah, that's it. Baz is going to come out and say, that's Zach Crawley. That's match-winning Zach Crawley right there. We'll forget about any of the rest of it. He will be in there for the Pakistan series, where, to be fair, he might do quite well because I think we were talking about it again yesterday. His game might be a bit better set up for easier batting pitches. and then we're back to square one.
I think probably he has outperformed Alex Lees this summer. If I had to pick one of them to go forward with, it would be Crawley. I don't know if that's the endorsement that
he needs.
Sounds like it might be. Yeah. He averaged 23, I think, over the summer. Do you know what the average of all openers, apart from Zach Crawley, was in England?
All summer.
Yeah.
20?
23.2.
Okay, so he's bang average.
Actually very close to average.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the players that came over, who are the really top caliber ones. So we've got Veer. He was right at Lords, wasn't he? But he wasn't amazing.
The
Cockinator. The Cockinator is a good opener, but didn't have a great series.
No.
But, that's what happens. Alex Lees. Again, I think he should probably not be playing for England. I've seesawed on him. I'm in the Lees out camp. Gill, Pajara, and then whoever the Kiwis turned up with. I think it changed because of COVID, didn't it?
Yeah.
Will Young, was he opening at one point?
And Latham?
Conway? No, Latham.
Conway was 4.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know if it's a who's who of great opening bats, but yeah, he fits slightly in below average. One question: what should be the starting 11? This is from Larn on Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. What should the starting 11 be for England's next Test match in Pakistan? And what do you think it will actually be?
Good
so
question.
I think it will be very similar to this, if not identical. I think there is the possibility that they bring in Jennings as a specialist for Lees.
Yeah,
I think that could happen. And I think there is the possibility that they play an extra spinner. But I
was gonna say, is there a possibility that Moeen Ali comes back?
I think Moeen Ali's a good shout. I think like they could do something really rogue, get Don Bess in, something like that. I think that would only be to replace probably Broad in the 11, though. And I don't know if they'll do that. I think they might. They seem pretty determined to do the stick with a winning team thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if it was identical. Your thoughts?
I think they will try and fit an extra spinner in. And I also think they should. Depends who's going to be fit, doesn't it? That's going to be a big issue. It would be nice to have some extra pace, but is Mark Wood going to be fit enough for a Test series over there? I think he would. If he is, he would come in, and then I think we would probably consider another spinner, but it can't be Matt Parkinson because Jack Leach can't really bat, and Matt Parkinson definitely can't bat. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Moeen Ali at least being asked if he will come back, and I think Stuart Broad or James Anderson would be the one not to play, and Ben Stokes will probably continue destroying his left knee. Yeah,
I think that's likely. Anyway, Max, we are going to have a little break. If you're on YouTube, be a different show about the Asia Cup out. Look for that. Bye bye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.